Good, good. So welcome and thank you for joining our architecture and education
No.
information session this afternoon. The intent of this session is to both inspire and intrigue you with ideas from around the state and from around the country as we kick off our component challenge. This year-long event is to highlight the great programming ongoing throughout the state and then to encourage other components to join us in our efforts to engage the K through 12 community. I've entitled this challenge, I Can Be an Architect. We'll officially launch the event in our upcoming Friday Facts, so be watching your email this Friday. The notice will provide links to the form you'll fill out for your component. And I think Becky can show that here momentarily. And then it'll also have a place that you can upload upload images and other information that we can share and celebrate with you on our website and throughout the year on our social media. We'll also be highlighting the events at our convention in July. Excuse me. So with us today is Devin Davis. She's manager of the K through 12 initiative and engagement at AIA National, who'll share different ideas from around the country along with the interactive map that I'm so excited about. And Devin, if you can wave. And then with us also is Arthur Sheffield, AIA. He's chair of the Foundation for Architecture, and JJ Scott, AIA, who's chair of the committee overseeing this event. They'll share about the different resources and funding opportunities available for components from the foundation. Craig Akwar, AIA, will share about the Black Architects in the Making, known as BAM, the programs that he's founded. And Brooke Godinez, AIA from AIA Florida Northwest, who'll share about their gingerbread event. And then between JJ and Amanda and I will share a little bit about the different programs that we've hosted in Tallahassee. So at the end of the session, we'll provide a question and answer time. So if you'll hold your questions until then, we will most definitely respond to those. You can raise your hand in the reaction session. And to get things started, I'm going to introduce Arthur Sheffield.
Would help if I unmute.
There you go.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Arthur Sheffield. I'm chair of the Florida Foundation for Architecture. I am pleased that all of you can join us today. Just wanted to tell you a little bit about the foundation. It was chartered in 1967, and it's a nonprofit organization that exists to advocate the value of architecture to audiences beyond the traditional profession. So we accomplish this through a number of events, initiatives, and programs which feature architecture and are open and available to the general public and related professions as well as architects. So the impact of the foundation is to be awareness, education, and recognition. One of the main programs of the foundation is the Architecture and Education Program. Now that is a STEAM-based, STEAM-focused initiative. STEAM being science, technology, engineering, architecture, and math. It's Florida standards-based. It's an educational program through the Florida Foundation for Architecture, and it's an 8 to 10 week curriculum. However, it's not a one-size-fits-all. So it's a program through which the intent is that we expose K through 12 children to architecture and hopefully encourage them to pursue architecture as a career path. So the program can vary in length, but traditionally we do it 8 to 10 weeks. We're in the schools, and there's various approaches, anything that provides sort of a creative aspect to it to sort of spark the interest and creativity of young minds so that they have an interest in what it is that architects do and perhaps decide that it's something that they want to become. So architecture and education, it sharpens the students' math, their social studies, their art and other core academics with real life project-based learning. Funding for it comes through the ANTIS fund, which is a reimbursement for the programs, can come through the ANTIS funds. So the Jim Antis Fund was created by AIA member who supported Jim Antis, who supported the architecture and education program. And it's a means through which components can put together a program and then apply for reimbursement through the foundation. We have a certain allotment that we can hand out each year, allocate each year to components to help support their initiatives to continue these efforts. So with that, I'd like to bring on my colleague, J.J. Scott, to discuss a little bit more about some of the foundation's funding and support.
Thank you, Arthur. Just to let you guys know that that you're not in this alone. I mean, this is a forward-focused initiative that AIA Florida and the foundation wants to push forward in order to cultivate the next generation of architects. You know, if you come down to it, we're membership focused, we're membership driven, and without our voices being large and in number, we tend to get more attention that way when we have an advocacy issue or anything like that. And so if we can cultivate our next generation of members and our next generation of architects, that's what we want to do. And so I want to encourage everybody to explore this option because it is a very fulfilling avenue for touching that next generation that can really make a difference in a kid's life. At the foundation, we have, like Arthur was saying, it's a reimbursable funds for to help support your efforts. So by all means, if you know, it's not the curriculum as it is now, and not saying that you can't modify it here or there and to kind of tweak it to the way that would work best for whatever school that you're in. Whether it's you could do anything from a small pre-K group Montessori school to a full 12th grade class if you wanted to do that. I mean, it's really flexible, and you can do it to any really size of classroom. But either way, those materials aren't going to be super costly. We've kind of done the best we could to kind of keep it as minimal on the material side as possible, so that doesn't keep you scrambling every week to go gather all the materials and all that kind of stuff. And so you should be able to finance it basically from either donations from other members or the just what finances you have in your component. But we'll reimburse you for those costs. It is, like I said, the cost should be fairly minimal, but we have made a commitment at the foundation to help reimburse you guys for those efforts, so that way you're not kind of hung out there to do this. We would much rather you focus on gathering those volunteers and gathering those the curriculum to go forward into that classroom and focus on touching the students' lives rather than having to worry about all those material costs and things like that. So I want to make sure that you guys are inhibited from moving forward toward this as much as we can, and that's the best way we thought we could do it. Again, if you guys can, it will be reimbursable, so you'll just submit that your costs back to AIA Florida, to the foundation, and we'll shoot you a check.
Great. Thank you, Arthur and JJ. And now I have someone I've been looking forward to introducing you to. I went to the Leadership Summit in Washington, D.C., and was so excited to find that we actually have a manager that oversees these K-12 initiatives. Her name is Devin Davis, and she's here to tell you about different ideas from around the country that will fit even the smallest component. And more importantly, I'd like you guys to pay attention to the interactive map, which I would like every program, all the hard work that you're doing, I want to put Florida on that map. So without further ado, Miss Devin Davis.
Thanks, Rhonda. It's great to be here. I think I just hit last week my 6-month mark at AIA, and so it's been really fun. I have 20 years of experience as an educator. I was a school counselor and a school principal, a head of school and a school developer at a variety of school types, public, private, charter. So I bring the K-12 aspect, education aspect into the association world, and it's been so fun to spend time discovering all of the really, really cool and inspiring architecture and design initiatives that are going on across the nation. We had a session, like Rhonda mentioned, at the Leadership Summit, just talking about a couple of those. Even since then, I just keep learning about more and more. Florida, you are all really lucky to have the resources, the financial resources available to you. That is not the norm, I would say. So definitely take advantage of that as you're thinking about what you want to start. I'm going to show you, I'm going to take some time to show you the K-12 web page so that you can access all of these resources. I've been working on making it as accessible as possible so that everybody can see what's going on. Please also always feel free to use me, Devin Davis at AIA.org, or you can just email K12@AIA.org and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Does anyone else do this? Can you connect me? Or do you have ideas or thoughts? That's what I'm here for. That's my whole job. So please use me in that way. I will share my screen here so I can show you the web page. So this is AIA.org/become an architect. And what Rhonda was talking about is this map in particular. So anytime I'm hearing about anything that's related to K-12 architecture and design work, I'm adding it to this map. There's a way, if there are things that you know of that are happening, please tell me. Again, you can either email me or fill out this form. And I think I started with 28 based on the survey that went out to all of the components last fall. And now today I'm at 172. So it just is consistently growing. You can see they're organized by state. Also, another of the color coding is these yellows are not AIA components and not project pipeline. The green is the project pipeline locations for the summer camps this summer. And then the red is AIA components. So you can see just from what I was doing, I was just hovering over any of them. You can see the program name, the organization name. There's a link to the website, really brief description about it, and then the categories that it hits. And the reason for those categories is because there is an option for a search and filter over here. So you can filter by whatever category you want. If you're just looking for elementary, you're just looking for virtual, you're just looking for something that pertains to educators, any of those categories you can search and filter by. And it's just kind of your basic selector column, whatever. You want to look for summer camp, and then you're going to pick all the ones that are yes. And then apply. And there you go. There are all the summer camps that are happening. And so, however you want to do it, whatever you're looking for, it's right there. Then in the last week, I'd say I was very excited because I got access to this page so that I could actually start to edit it. And so there are categories down here. If there are additional categories you feel like I'm missing or something you feel like is miscategorized, please, always open to feedback. One category I know I want to add already is opportunities to volunteer so that members can go look and see what's in their area that's happening in the K-12 world that they could volunteer for, as opposed to starting from scratch. But all of these have just a plethora of resources, all linked to the actual site for you to be able to go and see what's going on. Some of the resources that I just wanted to call out are really some simple grab and go resources. If you're looking for an opportunity simply to go into a school and talk with a classroom of students, any of these at-home activities, honestly, are very easy. One, I'll point out the Climate Action Design Challenge that was created by AIA based on a pilot of this at the Girl Scout Convention last year. But there are 10 cards with challenges based on what architects face in their design build. We actually have these physical decks of cards that I'm hoping to get in the bookstore so that they can actually be bought, but this is just a PDF that you can print, so it's completely free. You can use Lego bricks or you can use recycling materials to build, and basically, a small group of kids you could have a classroom divided into groups of 3 to 5, give them each a design challenge and say, go, and see what they come up with, and they can present it. And you can be monitoring and walking around and asking questions and giving feedback. So that's a really fun activity. This one, the AIA Kansas City Animal Dice game is, it might be my favorite so far because of its simplicity and its breadth of range of audience. This could really go from kindergarten through adulthood. And basically, if you scroll down here, you'll see there's 2 pages of die, and one of them has animals, one of them has names of buildings. And so really, in essence, what you're doing is, again, you could do this small groups, you could do it as a whole group conversation. You roll and see what you come up with, and then you design for your client animal based on the building that you roll. So maybe you're building a penguin library. So you'd have to ask questions, what do penguins like? What do they eat? What do they need in order to be in existence in a library? And what's a library all about? What would you need in order to call it a library? And so again, like, very simple. You can tie it to almost any theme that the teacher is working on, including just a simple social emotional learning. Empathy, for example, is a really good one because you need to empathize with the animals in terms of what they need and what they might want in their space. Another one is AIA Iowa created a Be an Architect coloring book, and it's activities coloring. Again, you can print this out. You can, send it with your members' kids, or at a school. There's all sorts of different things to do architecture related in here. A lot of these sites have just a ton of them, like ADX. This is out of AIA Dallas. They have all sorts of activities here, each one, again, clickable. So, depending on how much time you have, you can go down a rabbit hole of hours here on this page, or again, use me as a resource. Say, Devin, I'm going into a classroom of second graders. What ideas do you have? I'm happy to help with any of that. Under student resources, there are also resource guides, and this might be something that any one component is interested in doing. So AIA Kansas City, they created a guidebook. And this is for students. Sorry, I need to move my camera here so I can get here. Basically, it's, what is architecture all about? Who is AIA Kansas City? They also have one that's specific to Kansas City. So that might be something that you consider for your location. It's just your basic, how do you become an architect? They also have videos in AIA Kansas City, AIA Nebraska created a resource guide as well. NCARB has their destination architect. They've got booklets and guides as well. A lot of videos down here. Again, if you're going into a school, maybe you start with a video, maybe you start with a presentation. Lots of YouTube channels for students to check out. In this category, all the camps that I'm aware of, as well as there are some, just like Art Careers Guide has a comprehensive list that they update with all of those that they can find as well. So there's lots of camps and programs. Events, if you're thinking about creating an event with your component. AIA Chicago has had for many years a free event for high school and college students. They invite all of the area colleges, and actually a lot out of the area too, but architecture schools come and have a booth and present to the students. AIA Cleveland does a really cool sandcastle construction every summer where they have groups, the community comes out. They sign up, it's open to students as well. Staten Island every winter does a spaghetti marshmallow building contest. There's, there are one-day events, or there are, semester-long school programs. Obviously, the semester-long school programs are a little harder to pull off. Oh, I don't know about harder. One-day events take a lot of energy also and planning, but sometimes it's hard to coordinate the semester-long with the teachers and figuring out the curriculum and getting into the school. Not that it's not possible, and it's an awesome thing to do, but it takes a little bit more relationship building on the front end to make sure that you can get in there and work with the school standards so that it fits for the teachers. These are programs and workshops that are ongoing. Again, you can see, you know, what the components do and what some other groups are doing. The design and build the city, there are quite a few programs like that, like a box city event or camp, where the kids, and I've seen it also where the architect might go into the classroom, introduce the idea to the teachers and the students. The teacher takes it for the next 8 weeks. The architects or members come back at the end and either judge or are the audience that the students are presenting to. So not a ton of time commitment on the volunteer side. It's getting a teacher who's excited about that project. There's a category for scholarships, internships, and design competitions. If you're interested in starting a design competition, these are the ones that I know of right now that are happening across the country. You can see who they are for. There's only one that I am aware of that extends beyond the local region, or at least the state region, and that's in it's based out of California, the Center for Architecture and Design. And basically they went international when COVID hit because they decided to expand it as a virtual option, and then ended up with students from China and can't even remember where all participating, and they've continued to participate since then. And then finally, these educator resources are also educator. I was struggling a little bit with my category name because educator is, yes, for the teachers in the schools, but also for the professionals who are going into the schools, some programs and resources that you might want to know about and take in. A lot of these are specific curriculum. Then there are field trip options. Again, maybe something you might want to consider as a component is a walking tour for students. A couple of them are, you know, you can do virtually, or they have kind of the handout with instructions so teachers can come on field trips. They may or may not be able to have an architect leading the tour. If you design it in such a way, then maybe they don't need that. NCARB has an entire resource for counselors and educators. So if you go into a school and they want to know what resources they can use, that's really good. These presentations, for example, the AIA presentation is something where if you're going into a school, you could just steal this. It's an intro to architecture. It's based on the NCARB Guide to Becoming an Architect, talks about what it is, what an architect does. This piece, I'm still trying to figure out the technology of making it so that it's automatically editable. That's why I added in parentheses, email k12@aia.org, because I can just email you a copy of this and then you can do with it as you wish. Add your own pictures. That's really what the students want to know is, what did you do? What did you design? What excites you? Because you're the one standing there. So having that is great. This is just, you know, how do you become? What do you do? And then there are a variety of activities here that you might want to do with them, including a simple one with folding, sketching, you know, what makes it more fun. One example that I just heard recently of an architect going into a school, she just used a pepper, like a green pepper, you know, and you can cut it in a variety of ways to kind of show what the plans look like, you know, the foundation and the 2D and 3D, and you can just, you know, use fruit and veggies as you wish. So AIA Kansas City has 2 slide decks as well for that, and then AIA Nebraska needs to go there too. And then these are a whole bunch of partnerships and things that are happening within the schools. Another thing that I wanted to show you. Did that just flip to a different tab? Sometimes I worry when I'm sharing my screen. Did I get a thumbs up? Can anyone see the?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So this is something that is not, it's not bulleted on the website yet because it's still in development. They're hoping to launch it in California for the next school year. But this is something that they have been working on in Architecture by the Book, and they are creating a lesson, a 90-minute lesson, on a specific architect. Each of these cards, they're partnering with an area firm. So the firm is sponsoring the card and the architect. The firm can choose the architect if they wish. They're developing a lesson plan. Most of them are very similar, they just vary by the architect, maybe some very specific that architect kind of questions. And then they are partnering with the schools, reaching out to the schools and saying, hey, do you want an architect to come in and teach this lesson to your kids? So they're going to have a whole host of these cards and lessons that they can put into action with the students in California. So that's another idea. One thing to show you here, I'm happy to send this to you, but these are all there except for this guy. And this is another thing that I've been asked for people who are going into like career days or STEAM fairs, what's a leave behind for the students who are actually, really interested in pursuing this. This can be modified and personalized as you wish, but this is just an example of, you have students coming up to your table and saying, hey, what do I do next? Where do I go? What do I look for? You can change the organization and QR code here, depending on what you want to share with them. And this is just, again, something that you could reach out to me and say, hey, I'm going in to a high school. I'd like to have an informational flyer to leave for them. Can you help? So that's the gist of what's available to you. This is all, again, aia.org/become an architect. This is for anybody, reaching out to the local, your chapters, and saying, hey, I'm interested in having an architect come in, social media channels. There's a lot here. Again, you can go down a rabbit hole, but I just wanted you to be aware that it exists. So as you're developing or thinking about ideas, I'm happy to, again, connect you with anybody who's already doing that, or be your brainstorming partner as you're thinking through, what do I want to do? The last thing I want you to do is reinvent the wheel on any of these things. They can only be improved as you're pulling them together. I'm really excited for you to hear about what Brooke has done. That's here. The Florida, your foundation is listed here as well. Florida Foundation for Architecture with the STEAM program. It's all just really, really cool stuff that's really exciting for the students. And I'm really excited for what's going to come for the Florida students. So hopefully that helps give you at least a sense of what's out there.
Wow. Thank you, Devin. So you guys can see why I was so excited and wanted Devin to be here, because there's so many different ideas that it doesn't matter if you're a small component or a large component, or if you want to just do a day or an afternoon, or if you want to get involved with the 6-week after school care program. So there's a lot of resources. So to further continue our inspiration session, Craig Alcott is going to talk about his BAM programs.
All right, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. All right, let's share my screen. Excellent. All right, please give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Fantastic. All right, so I'm going to be cramming a lot in 5 minutes here to talk about the Black Architects in the Making program and how we started and why we came about and what we do. So AIA Miami has a program called Architects in the Making. We have been doing summer camps for the last 17 years. This year, we'll be doing that again at the University of Miami School of Architecture. It would be between, I think, July 22nd, August 2nd, after the AIA Florida conference. I first got introduced to this program back in 2014 when I became a member of the AIA, and I quickly volunteered for the children program. And there I saw a lack of participation of the African-American students within the program. It wasn't that everybody was not welcome and invited to participate, but the word was just not getting out into the extremities of our society. And so in observing that, we started doing some research about why that is. And of course, you may be familiar with this research here that there is approximately 122,000 architects in the United States. And there's about 12 to 13 to 14% of the population being Black Americans. That gray area indicates if all things were equal, and we know it's not, but if all things were equal, that would be about, about 49,000 architects of that 122,000 would be Black architects. The truth is only 2,571 architects actually identify as Black architects. This is the current number. And if you think that was anemic, well, we only have about 614 Black female architects in the entire country. This is somewhere in the region of about 0.5%. That was very concerning. And so, this picture is a picture I usually use to show the feeling of Black architects at AIA events in particular. While we are part of the class, the profession, if you will, oftentimes we feel a little bit alone. It was Whitney Young who said that only when the profession reflects the demographic composition of the society that we serve, we will truly be on the right track to becoming an inclusive profession. The reason for the lack of participation was examined, and there are several reasons. The one that the BAM program decided to focus on is the lack of knowledge about the profession. And in 2016, the Black Architects in the Making program was founded by myself and then co-chaired by Naomi Harrison, and several other like-minded architects became part of the program. We decided to become laser focused on the lack of inclusivity in the profession by going into communities where Black children live, learn, and play to talk about architecture in a creative and fun way in which the students would be able to engage. So our goal was pretty simple: to enhance students' knowledge about architecture. We make sure that it was clear, simple, and achievable. We're not schools of architecture, and therefore we don't pretend to teach students architecture. We simply inform students about architecture and point them in the direction in which they can further explore the career. So again, we kept it simple. Instead of students coming to us, we then deploy architects predominantly to schools where Black children live, learn, and play, as I mentioned, to talk about architecture in a creative way. Everything was kept flexible, was kept nimble, in that we can move around from school to church to after-school organizations, mosques, summer camps, and so forth, all over the South Florida and North Florida areas. The program informs students about architecture, and we have several ways of doing that. We have workshops. First workshop is a presentation talking about architecture, an introduction to architecture. That's usually our first contact. This is a 90-minute program. First 40 minutes talk about architecture to get everybody on the same playing field in simple terms so that they understand that students actually know more about architecture than they think they do. We identify iconic architectural building structures all over the world, and students start realizing that, yes, indeed, we do know the Pyramid of Giza, we do know the Leaning Tower of Pisa, we do know the Eiffel Tower, and all of these kind of stuff. When we get on the same page, everybody understand that architecture is extremely important for the building of community, and that architects are indeed important professionals in our society. Then after this general presentation, we present workshops to students who want to actually learn more about architecture. We have different type of workshop. Our workshops are usually the verb like an architect. So in this particular instance, we have a sketch like an architect program. There's also the BAM Sketch Thursdays, where bi-weekly we meet online And we introduce students to different buildings all around the world, talk about the architecture, the architect, the concept. We talk about how the buildings would make us feel. And while we're talking and presenting that, the students are sketching. The program has been going now for over 2 years without missing a session. And we have students attending from all over the nation. Indeed, we have students attending from Puerto Rico sometimes, from Jamaica, and other places like that. Then Speak Like an Architect. This program was created and led by Naomi Harrison, which is a co-chair of Black Architects in the Making program. And by the way, Naomi is to be congratulated. She has passed her final ARE and is now a registered architect, and a great inspiration to the students and so forth who see somebody who looked like them, and somebody who had a determination and the commitment to do what it takes to become an architect. Each of our workshop is again Verb Like an Architect, in this case Write Like an Architect, led by Miriam Mohammed, one of our BAM participants over the years. Make Model Like an Architect by Jaylen Harrington, different levels of make models like an architect. We're not just physical models, but we also teach students how to make models on the computer as well, using SketchUp. These are some of the products and so forth, and they make presentation of what they've done and so forth. Read Plans Like an Architect. And then we always talk about how do you go from here? So whatever level that we meet the students at, K through 12 level, we encourage them to make sure that they're good at all of the subjects, but in particular mathematics, art, history, science, computer science, geography, etc. And we encourage them to prepare a portfolio. Indeed, this the Sketch Thursday program is really about creating a sketchbook, maintaining a sketchbook, and practicing how to sketch from a very early age, so that they can then draw from that sketchbook to make their portfolios when it is time for them to attend a high school like Dash, Design and Architecture Senior High here in Miami-Dade County, or for that matter, any of the various colleges that has an architecture program. We talk also about scholarships and application and grants and so forth available, because architecture is a very expensive education to pursue. We take the students of the program to office visits, and we have several different firms locally that participates in this, MC Harry being one of those, HKS, and so forth. Students attend various architecture exhibitions by the local School of Architecture. Here we see them at Miami-Dade College, as well as FIU. And then we engage schools like FAMU, where for the last 4 years, we have gone to their career day. And the day before career day, we meet with students who are interested in engaging their community. And we tell them about the BAM program and how that can be very effective. At FAMU, a significant amount of the students don't stay within Tallahassee. They actually go back to the various cities and so forth that will employ them, or where they're originally from. And we think this is an effective way at proliferating the program throughout the nation. And we also are very active in the various camps. Again, I mentioned the Architects in the Making summer camp, but there's also the Design Your World camp at the Florida International University, as well as NOMA's Pipeline project. We have awarded a few scholarships over the years to various participants of the BAM program to attend local schools of architecture. And during the pandemic, we had to put all of our in-person workshops online, and that actually worked out very well, because we started reaching students further afield from South Florida and Miami-Dade County. And now the program has students who are active participants from New York, from Boston, North Carolina, Tampa, etc. We also have a mentorship program. Jaylen Harrington is one of those, and we have mentorship programs at 6 p.m. On Mondays and Tuesdays, most days, with various different students who want to go further and need to know what must I do to continue their interest? Mentioned scholarships before. We do summer internship programs at MC Harry in particular, but we do have a couple of other firms that participate in this. If there's a student that's interested, we would link them up with another firm if there's no space here at MC Harry Associates. And then employment, it's useless to be telling students about going to School of Architecture and becoming an architect if after they go and they do what they need to do, they cannot be employed afterwards because there's no place for them. So we assist students in employment in placing them in a local firm if they reach out to us. And then replication, extremely important. BAM Broward is one good example of this kind of replication. Malcolm Jones, who founded BAM Broward, was a volunteer at BAM Miami. And when he returned home after school at Florida International University, he requested forming a BAM in Broward, and we started proliferating. So there's a BAM mother organization, if you will, which is part of the Miami Center of Architecture and Design, the sister organization to AIA Miami. And there we have BAM Miami, and then there is BAM Orlando, of course, affiliated with the OFA in Broward. And there is an active BAM Broward affiliate, if you will. BAM Tampa is on the verge of starting our champion there. Just recently had a child awaiting her readiness to launch BAM Tampa. Same thing is true for BAM Atlanta with Ibehi and others there as well. And we are actively promoting the participation of other affiliates throughout the United States. Our next step really is to talk about licensure and helping students participate after finishing school, how to become effective in becoming licensed as an architect. Yeah, in a nutshell, that's what the BAM program is all about. It is important to mention that although we are laser focused on making the profession more inclusive, we turn away no one. We have people from students from all backgrounds who's a part of the program, whether it is at our various workshops or in the various schools that we attend and educate about architecture. That's it.
Wow.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Craig. Now we know why, with such a full breadth of sharing what the program is all about, why it would be hard to stick to 5 minutes. I had no idea that you went on into the internships and employment and licensure thing. So that's great. Thank you. Okay, and next on our agenda is Brooke from Pensacola, our AIA Northwest with the Gingerbread program.
Okay, I'm going to try and keep this quick so that we have time for questions at the end. All these programs, there's a lot to them, and it's really hard to give your, elevator pitch for what it is. So instead of a PowerPoint, I'm going to show you some pictures of some past years I'm going to use I'm going to use Wallace Lake K-8. It was a brand new school. They're finishing their first school year ever as a new school. And we got into it because we did gingerbread at another school. We met the STEAM Council innovator for the school district, and he put us in connection with the administrators that formed this new school. So they let us in and let us test it. We run this for 5th grade classes at the public elementary schools. It started a little bit more than 10 years ago. I did not start it. It kind of fell in my lap to pick up the pieces and keep going. And I love the program, and I don't intend to set it down, but if someone wants to take over, then I will hand over the reins, because it is a lot of work and it takes a lot of effort, especially at the end of the year when you're trying to finish up projects, and if you have small children at home, plan for Christmas also. But I do it because it's rewarding. So we go into 5th grade classrooms and we introduce them to the architecture industry, architecture, engineering, construction, through the building and design of their own gingerbread house. So through that, we discuss their scope, their schedule, their budget. Their scope is they can build whatever they want within the zoning rules. The schedule is this is when it's due to the school, and you need to plan how long it's going to take you to build it and then double it, because things always take longer than we plan. And the budget is whatever you and your people decide that you're willing to spend on it. So if you live with your parents and they say you got $20, you have $20. If they really don't care, you have an endless budget, and that's kind of what we deal with. So it's starting to introduce the reality of things, and we give them a zoning code, and the zoning code are the rules that they have to fill out, comply by, which are setbacks, height restrictions, who can work on it. We don't want pets working on it because it's edible. We can have family members help, and it's really just to get it built at home, transported to the school, and that's what they do. They do have a zoning violation if they do break one of the rules and they don't get the top prize, but they can win in another award. But it's teaching them that, you know, you can design and you have no limits, but you do have to follow some rules. And then we have a permit application, which is their permission slip to participate. And, you know, some have a fee for their permit, and the schools use that $2, $3, whatever, for juice and cookies. Other ones waive it. But we kind of replicate kind of the idea of the things that we interact with on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to go through a few pictures. If I'm smart enough to figure out how to share my screen. Okay, so this is an Eiffel Tower, which is pretty fantastic. Probably had help from mom and dad. We're okay with that. We've also adapted this program to work successfully in a special needs classroom, and they did it as a class assignment. So typically the students will do this as a take-home assignment. This one has a zoning violation. That's the lot. They do it as a take-home assignment. The special needs classroom, they do it as an in-person assignment with their paraprofessionals helping them work on it. And they all get an award there. Whereas the schools, we have 12 award categories, and we pick the best by judges, or the ones that we like the best. So not everyone gets an award at a conventional school site, but for our specialty school, everyone gets an award. And they really do fantastic ones. And I could stick one from a specialty school in with the regular ones, and the only thing that you're going to notice is the lot number is going to be a little bit different because I use that to tell which school site it's from. But you do see there's a zoning violation there. This one was really cool. It was a Titanic. I think it was that back edge was too far out, but it's limited by their creativity, their ability, and their time. But it's really just to give them a taste of what it is we do and see if it's something that they're interested in, and maybe further discussions of how it is we go about it. And the presentation that we give to start, we tell them, you know, does anyone know an architect? Well, now you can all raise your hand because I'm an architect and I'm here talking to you. And then we explain how it is that we get to be what we do, our education. We have to do an internship. We have to take exams. And it's just something we like to say that this is something that you can do here in your community. So you can go out, you have to leave to go to school, but you can come back and you can live in your same community that you grew up in and practice architecture. So we don't have a lot of time today, but if you want to hear more, then you can get a hold of me through Becky or Rhonda.
Thank you so much. That looks so much fun. I think I might like to do one for next time. So to keep, I wanted to share just a little bit about Tallahassee. We took the traditional route using the lesson plans and program from the foundation, where you go into a local elementary school, 4th and 5th grade classes, and taught the lessons. We were lucky in that the architect firm in Tallahassee, they had a project going on at the school. So the principal's real excited. So she got everybody involved. And then once the construction started, they were able to participate in that. The hardest part is getting the volunteers lined up. At the time, I was teaching at the School of Architecture at FAMU. And so I involved the AIAS students, and a couple of the other faculty assisted me, but there was an underserved neighborhood with an elementary school that we did just after school care, just an hour and after school care, just for a few weeks. And then I scheduled a field trip back to the School of Architecture. We did a tour, we did a Lego event, and gave them some lunch and things like that. So what I wanted you to see today is that there's such a wide variety of programs that you can do. And it's just, we just want to expose it and let them know that they can be an architect if they want to be, so that they know what it is, they know what it's about, and then provide information if they want to move forward, just like both Brooke and Craig talked about. So if you have any questions, because again, what I want to do this year, COVID kind of shut things down, but I wanted to get everything cranked back up. I want to highlight the programs that are ongoing, like BAM. You hear Craig, he got involved in 2017, and I have no idea how long that program is going on, but I want to highlight those things that are going on around the state. I want to inspire those components that may or may not have been conducting some of these efforts or engaging in the K-12 community, but let you know that you have ideas, you have endless resources, there's funding available, and we want to celebrate with you. There is a form, Becky put the link to it, where you can basically let us know what your component is doing. It's going to run all year long, the challenge. So if you can't do it this weekend, you can do it next spring. But we just want to reach out around the state. And I think that's going to be very powerful. I'd like to try and figure out how we can figure out how many students that we have engaged with in this year. But we're going to highlight it at our convention. You're going to be your pictures and your information on our social media accounts. So sign up, let us know what you're up to. We have Devin at National. We have Craig at one end of the state in Miami, and Brooke in Pensacola. Becky and I here in Tallahassee, and Arthur in Sarasota with the foundation. So again, you have tremendous resources. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with and decide to do. And I don't think there's anything else in the panel. Devin is going to be at national convention. So Devin, I look forward to that conversation here real soon. So what I'd like to do now, Becky, you'll have to help, is if there's any questions from the attendees so that we can help you get started and get excited about what can be done in your component.
Sure. There was one question about this being recorded, and yes, it is being recorded. We're posted in Friday Facts and on our website where we have all our previously held webinars. There's another question for you, Brooke, about what happens if parents or families will not give money for the gingerbread building or provide the resources to build or won't be able to participate. And I know you deal with a lot of different school levels. I was lucky enough to be a judge several times for this event too, so I've seen the different schools.
So for any school in the state of Florida now, if it's a public school, they're required to get the parents' permission to participate. It's not a required assignment. It is a extra points. And in my daughter's school, they have house points, and that's like a big deal. So it's not required. And they can work with a partner. So usually the teachers know which children don't have the resources at home or don't have the parents that can participate, and they help us partner up those students with parents and other students that can do it. The other thing that we try to do with discreetly through the school is if there is a student that really does want to do it, but they can't afford it because maybe a family member's lost their job or something, then we can give them a gift card to Walmart so that they can buy it. The board is provided to them free. It's just the candies. They don't have to use gingerbread. When we do it in the in-class assignment with our special needs classroom, we build a kit of parts and bring that to the school so the school doesn't have anything. And we have gloves because some of the students have tactile sensitivities, and icing on hands will just throw them over the edge. But we provide all the candy and icing and decorating kits, and we do it that way. Most of the time what we found is the students know their children, and they know which students need help and which ones are fine. And we work closely with those teachers, and we've built relationships with them over years, and they are comfortable saying, hey, I have a student that wants to participate, but this is what's going on. And we work through the teachers to accommodate that need. But we haven't had anyone that didn't get to participate because they couldn't afford it. We've always found a way to work around that.
We also had a question about getting contact information. I'll provide that. You all will be getting a follow-up email, so I'll provide that in that follow-up email.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions?
Don't have any
feel-
questions in the Q&A, Rhonda.
Okay, so feel free to reach out to the foundation's resources. They have the lesson plans already available that you can download and then modify them to fit your event, whether it's a weekend long, 2 weeks, 10 weeks, however you want to do it. Plus, they also have the instructions for the tactile, the model building. It may be marshmallows and spaghetti, or gingerbread. There's different materials that you can work with to have that physical experience.
Rhonda, we did get another question. Do local chapters collaborate often with outside organizations?
What I'm assuming is you're talking about local school boards, or is that other?
Or I know some people work with ACE mentorship. Some
Mhm.
people work with local contractors or ABC or AGC. I'm not sure if any of you have any examples of that.
Yeah, I am certain those relationships would be beneficial in bringing the full scope of AEC, like Brooke mentioned. It would be a fantastic way to talk about the different roles of each person in the built environment, and then have them be able to ask questions. So the answer to that question is yes, that is absolutely encouraged.
The person put in like boys and girls clubs, libraries, etc. I know in
Yes,
Palm Beach
yeah.
County, there was an after school program with Girls Inc. So I do know some other components have worked with those. And how about suggestions on how to connect with schools?
So what we did in Leon County, several of us have continuing services contract with the school board. At the time, our first session, there was an active project going on and within a certain school. So we reached out to the principal. What I did when I decided I wanted to, so I think we had 3 different sessions, and it was all in our affluent side of town. And not far from the School of Architecture where I was teaching, there was this very underserved neighborhood. And so I basically cold called the principal and told her who I was and what I was up to. I gave her a link to the information on the foundation's website, and she emailed me back, and we set up a meeting, and I went and spoke with her and told her what we wanted to do. And she was actually very excited about it. She said she had taken her school from an F grade to a C in a year. In fact, we were sitting there when she got the phone call that she had been upgraded to a C. And so we talked about how there are kids in her neighborhood, and understand that they live within earshot of FSU Stadium. And she said they had never left their neighborhood. They did not know what a tall building looked like. And those of you that have been to Tallahassee, you know that we are not the Mecca of architecture. However, just the idea of exposing children to architecture and how powerful that could be. And not only that, there are so many aspects of architecture that could interest them. So we set it up in her after school care program. Like Arthur mentioned, it was STEAM, and she had a program in the after school that was funded through a STEM program through the school. And so we went in on Thursdays. It was a 4th and 5th grade class that they age groups that they mixed in that class. And we just took the lesson plans and talked about conceptual ideas and planning and sketching and drawing. And my favorite memory from that is when we were talking about conceptual ideas and how you can change them into a form. This young woman, she's a kid, a 4th grader. She drew this cat stretching and then sketched that the tail was the steps to the slide, and then you slid down the cat's back where it was stretching. And I thought that was ingenious. So I'm hoping that she was inspired to continue her imaginative skills and drawing. So it was just fun. The tour of the architecture building was really fun. But basically, I reached out and cold called, and then those that have relationships with their school board, or if you're a parent and you have children of that age in school, you can reach out to your principals there.
And I know we have a couple unanswered questions, but we're already a minute after our stop time. So I will give these to you guys offline, and hopefully we can get those answered and back to everybody.
All right, perfect. Listen, thank you, everybody. I hope we've inspired you. If there's any question whatsoever, you see these panelists here, they all are here to help you with your program and your components. So thank you, and we will see you, if not in DC, we will see you at convention. Thank you.
Thanks, Rhonda.
Thank you.
Great day, everybody.
All right, what was the questions? What were the questions, Becky? Where'd she
All right,
go?
well, if anybody's
she
still
is.
on, yeah, if anybody's still on here, there were a couple, I'll combine it into one question. So one asked about educating the business side of architecture, and another asked about historic preservation being a part of any programs, and then and architecture in the context with surroundings. And is there any consideration of an architect's responsibility to follow zoning codes and not always ask for more?
So a lot of those things I think you can incorporate. However, you have to consider the age group. I think if you're talking about high school students, you can get more into that. And, you know, maybe Craig, you could help with that because you've got a range of different students, but I think
Yeah.
it needs to be age appropriate for certain.
Yeah, you know, sometimes I think we're tempted to actually teach what schools of architecture teach, and and sometimes that is not necessarily a fun thing per se for a student who's just about to learn about architecture. And so we try to keep it fun, creative, and memorable, right? So we're not just lecturing at the students, but instead we're doing something interactive. You know, the Gingerbread House project is a very fun, awesome project that they get to do with their families. So there's some interaction there. But, you know, in our workshops, we never just talk, but we do. You know, this idea of I do, you do, we do kind of thing is extremely important in the AIM program as well as the BAM program. And it gives the students something fun, creative, memorable to do. And so we don't necessarily talk in detail too much about zoning or anything that's going to dissuade the student from finding architecture to be fun and creative. You know, we do a paper tower project to build the tallest tower and to build a bridge that will span, you know, all that kind of stuff that is competitive and challenging, because there'll be plenty of time in architecture school for them to do some other stuff. And not to mention after coming out of architecture school to be hitting the Florida building codes and other standards and regulations. You know?
I think what we're looking for in all these programs is just getting that initial spark or that interest and love for what we do. You know, when you started school, they didn't start you with all the code and, well, that doesn't work. That doesn't mean accessibility. Well, they brought that on later on. At first, we're just teaching you to think design minded and be creative and not do something conventional. We save the rules for later because that places restrictions and it clamps down the design. The same way when you start in the office, we don't start you on specs day one, because if I handed you Div 1 specs, you'd run out the door screaming and saying, I'm not doing this, I hate it. So for these programs that we're working with K through 12, we're trying to develop that initial interest and plant the seed and develop that love for architecture that's going to grow over a lifetime. But we're not trying to air the dirty laundry and scare them away the first chance we get.
Yeah, and like you say, that spark, it's they may not even know they have the skill set to consider architecture. And then they may not see themselves in a situation where they think they can accomplish anything. I was one of those students, and I have not shared this with this group, but it was in a vacation Bible school session. And I'm sure a lot of you may or may not know what vacation Bible school is, but during the activity, and I always drew, I always sketched from the earliest time I can remember, and like to color. like to build things. I like to rearrange our space. I would get in trouble because I rearranged furniture. But it was during a vacation Bible school session, and they gave me a box of popsicle sticks and some glue and some ties and said, here, you can build you a house. And I had never had been given the opportunity with things, you know, supplies, and said, here, build something. And it was life altering. So just giving people the opportunity and exposing them to the possibility.
Yeah, I'd like to just mention too that the AIM and BAM program will have a session at AIA National this year. We did it last year as well. We'll put a different spin on it this year. And the idea there is to do exactly what AIA Florida is doing in this session, which is to empower professionals to engage their local community with architecture programs. And we'll also, of course, be at AIA Florida's convention too. So please, if you have not signed up for something else, come on to the AIM and BAM session. We're going to be building the popsicle tallest tower competition, which last year we did the paper tower competition, and it was a lot of fun. So please join us.
Those of you that are in components that already have programs going on, we encourage you to go ahead and sign up and upload some of your images so we can go ahead and get you out there and let people see what you're doing. And if people reach out to you, I think it's exciting to get us on the map, to let people, the interactive national map, so that people can see what we're doing and then have resources available so that we can share about what we're doing here. Because there's some really wonderful programs like what Craig and Brooke have talked about that I think would make an impact. So if people reach out to you, be prepared to share. All right, Becky, is that all our questions?
That is all of them, and I thank everybody that stayed after class.
Yes, thank you. And Craig, thank you so much. Arthur and JJ, thank you as we get this thing kicked off. If there's anything I need to do to help you guys, please let me know. Brooke, thank you for your program and being the first one on the interactive map with all the resources. So guys, if you're interested in that program, it is on the map. So we look forward to it. Please watch for either Friday Facts email with the links where we officially launch the program. Thank you, guys.
All right, bye everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.